Hello and welcome to the cricketdraft.com. We've got a special guest today. He's got over 11,000 first class runs. He's the captain of the Essex first class team, the List A team, and he plays all formats. Featured in the Vitality Blast for Essex as well. It's none other than Tom Westley, and with me, Chris Dixon. And we're gonna get some good insight and advice from Tom today. We're so lucky to have him. I'll get straight into it, but before I do, with my questions. Chris, what have you got for Tom today?
Yes, okay, great to have you here, Tom. Just to kind of get your insights from as we see from a captaincy perspective and with a kind of T20 outlook into some things that are going on at the moment. So I guess first question is, there's been some amazing games so far in the World Cup and some close finishes. If you had to give the ball in a final over, defending, say, 15 off the final over, and you could have any bowler in the world, who would you give it to and why?
Good question. Yeah, I've been following the World Cup closely. Also, there's been some nail biters, but that game, India-Pakistan, in front of 90,000. I don't think there'll be too many bowlers wanting to, putting their hand up to want the ball. But as captain, I think if I could pick anyone in the world at the moment, it'd probably be Jasprit Bumrah. I wouldn't go spin. I don't think I'd ever go spin in the last over of a T20, just because you just never know. That over could easily go for 8, but it could also go for 28. So I think with a seam bowler, especially the wickets out in Australia at the moment, the pace, bounce and carry, I think you've got to go fast bowler. So Bumrah would be my pick. He's obviously hard to line up anyway, and he's got some unbelievable change up. So I think that's who I'd be chucking the ball to.
Yeah. All right. Nice one, man. I just have to follow up on that. Have you ever been in the situation where you've had to use a spinner in the final over, and how did that go?
Do you know what? I can't really recall being in a situation like that. It's not something that happens too much in T20. I mean, I've played all my T20 for Essex and a few for England A, but it's always been, you just naturally go to seam bowling at the death. I think if you were to bowl spin, obviously it's not a bad option because the grounds are so big, but I think it has to be a mystery spinner. I don't think it can be a left arm off spinner or a right arm off spinner. I just think it has to be someone that can spin the balls both ways with some mystery. So I think if I was to go spin, it would have to be like a Rashid Khan, someone who's really hard to pick, bowls it fast into the wicket. But it's not actually something that I've come across. You bowl those spin overs in the middle, and then you hold back seam for the end.
Yeah, I don't think Pakistan necessarily probably wanted to use spin in that final over, but they'd used up their resources and they were kind of left in that situation at the end. They probably didn't expect it to go that deep, but a bit of a Kohli masterclass there took it deep. Well, if I do remember rightly, I think in the CPL a few years back, there was a super over that Sunil Narayan bowled. And didn't he bowl a maiden? You're a Caribbean expert. Didn't Sunil Narayan bowl a super over and bowl a maiden or something? So he's probably the type of spin, if you were wanting maybe him, Hasaranga, Rashid Khan, they're probably the players of the type of caliber you'd want bowling that super over. But yeah, I totally agree. Bumrah as a team option is certainly a good one. That he'd be
Chris, in that case, then I'll change my over to Sunil Narayan. Then he can bowl the last.
If you're guaranteeing a maiden, it's certainly a good option, isn't it?
Yeah. Just pick two guys who are not in the World Cup currently. Yeah. That's some good choices. I'll use that to go straight into the next one that we have here. What have been some of the main tactical changes in the last couple of years in T20 cricket that you've seen? You've been heavily involved in the Blast this year. What direction is the game going?
Well, do you know what? I've said this a little bit when I've done interviews in the past couple of years. I feel like T20 cricket has just accelerated faster than any of the other forms. Obviously, I know Red Ball cricket, they're trying to play Bazball now, go at 5 and over. But I think the biggest gap is between 50 over cricket and T20 cricket. I think first class cricket and 50 over cricket, the gap's not as big. And I think it's just the fact that the batters can hit 360. This year, there was at Essex, there's a young player, Michael Pepper, who had a bit of a breakout year. He's hitting bowlers back over the head for 6, and then the very next ball, he's ramping them for 6 over the keeper. And that's something, I'm sure like Joss Butler started it, but that's something that batters weren't doing sort of 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I think that's changed. Like batters' options now are, they can hit the ball in 3 different places from the exact same delivery. And I think what's come in massively in the last maybe 18 months to 2 years is that certain batters definitely target certain bowlers, whereas previously you'd go hard regardless, maybe a little bit reckless. But now, like I remember a game I think we played against Middlesex. I think Morgan might have been playing. He didn't mind blocking 3 or 4 balls when he knew the left arm spinner was coming on next over and he was going to take him down for 20, 25 and over. So the tactical side of it has changed massively now. Like if you fancy taking a bowler down, whether that's the first over, whichever over, I think you've got the backing now just to do it, because the stats sort of reinforce that now.
Wow, absolutely. We know we play our fantasy cricket. We had some Essex picks. Chris would know that. Michael Pepper, we were following quite closely. So we know exactly what you're talking about. And, good to see those tactics in play. Chris, you got anything lined up for Tom to hit out of the park?
Yeah, so you mentioned Michael Pepper there, and obviously you played your T20 career at Essex. So I wonder, over your whole career, what's the best player you've played with, and also the best player and toughest opponent you've come up against for a different county in the Blast over the years?
I'll probably do against is probably AB de Villiers. He was playing for Middlesex. He only actually played a few games, and he won sort of 3 or 4 out of the 6 he played. But this was maybe 3 years ago when he was playing domestically. He just seemed like a step above. He made it look very simple on what was actually quite a challenging wicket. So he'd probably be the best, and then probably closely followed by Rashid Khan, who's obviously played down in Sussex for a number of years. And I think when he burst onto the scene, he's next to impossible to pick. You are pretty much guessing sometimes, and I'm being honest as a batter there. You sort of premeditate what you think he's going to bowl, but he's so hard to pick out of the hand, and he bowls it so fast. It's like facing like a medium pacer that can spin it both ways. So they'd probably be the 2 to pick from. And then I think, do you know what, playing with, and I'm probably missing out some gun overseas players that I just, I've completely glossed over. But I don't think you can look too far past the likes of like a Ryan Tenniscarter or a Ravi Bopara. I've seen probably both those guys, probably Tendo in particular, win more games of cricket for Essex, coming in like really tricky situations as well. Like he might not always get like the big scores, even though he has got them. But I'd say probably maybe not the last couple of years of his T20 career, but a large majority of it, he's the sort of guy that would come in and get you 30 off 17 balls, or a 20 off 9 balls and win the game. And sometimes it gets overlooked because someone's got like a 60 or 70, but like that's the guy you want walking out when you're chasing a score down, or you've only got 4 or 5 overs left.
Just a follow up to that, you mentioned you might be missing out on gun overseas players. I wonder if
you might miss that.
No, I know it's a separate question, but I wonder if it might an answer to this might feature an overseas player. I wonder what the best innings you've ever seen by an Essex player is in a T20. There's certainly one that comes to mind for me. I'm not sure if that would be the same one that comes to mind for you, but I just wondered. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Against Surrey.
I completely forgot about him, to be fair. But yeah, that was like a special innings. Actually, him and Dan Lawrence in that game. I think it was a reduced game, and it might have only been 13 overs, but I'm pretty sure we got like close to 200. It was ridiculous. Yeah, so
226 for 4 or 15 overs against Surrey and Chelmsford. Yeah. So that's quite some going. If you've got 5 overs left there, you could be breaking the record potentially there. I mean, we saw Devil Brevis. I don't know if you saw the other day. Devil Brevis, nearly got close to Chris Gale's record. They smashed 270, the Titans, in the South Africa domestic T20. Yeah, just 2 days ago.
And how old is he? 20 years old.
So, yeah.
Exactly. I think we covered. I think we got a lot on the T20, guys. One thing I would like to know, since you're name dropping, guys, who's the best fielder that you've seen in T20 because you know how much fielding changes games. You cover the batsmen, the bowlers, and the utility guys. There's got to be someone that stands out for you in T20 fielding.
Do you know what? It's actually something, I probably should have said earlier, that's actually an aspect of T20 cricket that's just gone from strength to strength. And actually, it'd actually be quite similar to my overseas pick. I don't think you can get many fielders better than AB de Villiers. The amount of chances he creates is incredible, and actually how often he hits the stumps as well is phenomenal. So he'd probably be right up there for me.
Wow, absolutely. Chris, what have you got for us, man?
Yep. One question I thought of, in terms of favourite grounds that you played at, we'll say let's go for one in the UK, your favourite, and as a batter, obviously, thinking T20 format, if you play any pitch in the UK, where would it be? And maybe one overseas that you haven't played at that you'd love to play a T20 on as a batter. So thinking maybe what road overseas would you like to bat on that you haven't had the chance to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at home, it's brilliant playing at Chelmsford because it's a small ground. But actually, I think the best ground for Essex to play at is the Oval, because it's always sold out when Essex plays Surrey. A lot of the city are Essex, so we actually sometimes get more supporters for that fixture than Surrey do. So there's always 20,000 people there, and you wouldn't know who was the home team. So that's an amazing place to play on a T20 night. Do you know what? I don't actually know where I'd pick overseas. Probably somewhere really hot, somewhere in the Caribbean, although the wickets don't look the best. But I definitely would not be picking Australia. Those boundaries are ridiculous, how big they are.
Yeah.
So that would be far too much running. So it'd have to be an overseas small ground, maybe Johannesburg. That's high scoring, somewhere like that. I'd have to be.
Yeah, I rate that Jobo pick. Ball flies at altitude there. Yeah. You've seen some very high scoring games there. So that would certainly be one of mine to play at. So yeah, good. And then the final question from me, I think, is what would be your ultimate World Fantasy T20 11 if you could pick anyone in the world that's still playing the game? What would be your 11, and kind of bit of an explanation there?
Right. So I went through this, but I went through this I was actually with Dan Lawrence a couple of days ago, because he's sort of playing all the T20 leagues. So he gave me a bit more of an insight. But it's actually pretty obvious, really. Like the names, they're big names, obviously, as you'd expect. So I've got Josh Buttler opening with Quinton de Kock, and I'm just going to let them fight it out for the gloves. So whoever keeps, the other one can captain or something like that. I've actually got at 3 Riley Rousseau, and I'm not just saying this because of the back of him scoring, hundreds, but he was prolific this year in the Blast, and it's actually it's nice to see as a domestic player when you come up against someone like that do so well at that level to then actually do it internationally. I mean, he's obviously a world-class player, so I've got him coming in at 3. And then I've just got, if we lose a couple of wickets, I've got Virat Kohli just strolling in at 4 just to steady the ship. And then at 5, I've got Liam Livingstone. I've played a little bit with him, or I've been on a couple of tours with him, not T20 tours, but, I think there was that stat in the game today, wasn't it? He's hit the most sixes since 2021.
Yep.
And also he bowls leg spin and off spin, and he's a good fielder. So I've got him coming at 5. I've got Hardik Pandya coming at 6. Similar. I think if your top 5 aren't getting you runs, you're going to be struggling anyway. But if you've got bowlers that can whack it out the park, then you can still chase anything down, or you can still set a decent score if you are losing wickets. This was a tough one here, was 7. And it depends on the surface, but if it's spinning, I'm going Mo Ali. If it's more of a seaming wicket, so I'm sorry to throw a bit of spanner, I'm going Jimmy Neesham. So, you can get a few overs, you can get you 50 off 30 balls anyway. And then I've got Rashid Khan coming after that. Obviously, we spoke about him a little bit. And then my quick bowlers, I've got Pat Cummins, Bumrah, and I've got Rabada in, but I was torn between, Hazelwood or Stark. But I'm going to stick with Rabada. And then my 12th man is Warner, or whoever misses out between Neesham and Mo on the day. So that's my World 11 with a little bit of help from Dan Lawrence.
Sounds good. Trying to think kind of what names I'd be thinking of that if I was any that maybe weren't mentioned that I might hear. Maybe a Surya Kumar Yadav. I think he's had a great year.
So Dan actually had him in, but then so that's who he had in a 3 or 4. He had him and Kohli 3 or 4, but I went Rousseau just to an extra left-hander. I think it's an easier game if you're left-handed.
And then maybe I think if I was picking a second spin, I'm not as good a bat as Moeen Ali, but maybe like a Hasaranga if I wanted those two frontline spinners. I think he's also a great bowler. He might be someone else I had in, but yeah, it's a great team.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
Yeah, you want 22 players, really, don't you? You have two World 11s against each other would be a good game, but yeah, it's hard to whittle it down to just 11 names.
Yeah, Tom, you've done a little bit of an exercise there that gives you a little bit of insight into what we go through on a daily basis here at the cricketdraft.com. All right. Interesting team. Really good picks. That team looks like 200 runs every game and bowls the opponent out for 100 every game.
Yeah, it's a good team.
I hope the IPL franchises are listening. All right. That's the team you want to get. All right. But it's been really insightful with Tom today. I hope you guys enjoyed the insight. I certainly did. Chris and myself have been privileged to be interacting with you, Tom. We wish you all the best now in the post season. Are you relaxing on holidays right now? Give us a little send off. What's Tom up to right now?
Well, I wouldn't say relaxing. I showed you the baby monitor, didn't I? Just before I joined. I'm strictly daddy daycare for the next month or 2. But we actually report back winter training in a couple of weeks, and then I think in the new year I'll be heading to Cape Town for a couple of months where I do a bit of work with the Gary Kirsten Academy and try and get ready for the English season.
Brilliant. Chris, you want to give us a good send-off this time?
Oh, I can't think of anything.
Like you always do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last video I had was probably the best send-off with loads of technical glitches and everything there, getting edited in. But no, yeah, thanks again for joining us, Tom, and join us for the next Game Week preview show on Thursday for the World Cup. So yeah, see you later, guys.